everyone, welcome back to my kitchen. Today we're going to focus on 3 baking basics that I know are going to help you out. We're going to share with you how to bring eggs to room temperature quickly for when you need them in a recipe now. We're going to show you how to properly measure all-purpose flour into a measuring cup. You might not be doing it the way you think is right. And then we're going to show you how you can make your own cake flour at home using 2 simple ingredients that I know you already have on your pantry shelf. Let's go see how these all come together. Today we're going to cover 3 quick baking tips that maybe you don't know, but maybe you do. But in any case, they're a good reminder. I'm going to be making a recipe that requires my eggs to be at room temperature. But because I want to make it a little more quickly than waiting for the eggs to actually come to room temperature, because I forgot to take them out, and a lot of times this happens, it's always better to use room temperature eggs. For the recipe I'm making, it's really important because I'm going to be making a sponge cake. The way that you bring your eggs to room temperature quickly is by putting them in a vessel and pouring warm water over them, not hot, and then you just wait about 15 minutes and they'll be room temperature for you. How easy was that? Okay, the next baking basic tip that I'm going to give you is how to properly measure your flour. If you are opening up your bag of flour, scooping your cup down in there, that is not how you properly measure flour, because do you know that when you do that, you can actually be measuring out 1.5 cups of flour instead of 1 cup of flour, so that when your bread comes out dense, too heavy, or not as delicious as you like, that would be the reason. You're actually adding too much flour at one time. And the proper way to measure flour is, if you have your bag, or in my case I have a jar here, you're going to want to spoon the flour gently into your cup, and then the other option is to do the scoop and shake method, where you will scoop the flour and then dump it back into the bag and then scoop out what you've already fluffed. You want to basically fluff the flour up, then scoop it, and then you want to sweep it across the top, just like that. And that is how you measure a perfect cup of flour. The third and final baking basic that I'm going to share with you today is how to create your own cake flour. Do you have recipes that call for cake flour and you're like, oh please? Does it really matter? It really does matter. Cake flour is lower in gluten. It gives your cakes a nicer, finer crumb. It also gives your cakes a loft that you're not going to get with using all-purpose flour. You can go ahead and use all-purpose flour, but your recipe is not going to come out as good as it could had you used cake flour. Now, cake flour can be sometimes hard to find. It can be sometimes a little more than you want to spend on a box of flour. So I'm going to show you how you can make your own, because you have what you need in your kitchen to make cake flour already. You're going to start off with 1 cup. This is a ratio for 1 cup. So for 1 cup of cake flour, you're going to need 1 cup of all-purpose flour, measured properly like we just showed you. You're going to remove 2 tablespoons of the flour from here. You're going to replace the flour with cornstarch. So you're going to put 2 tablespoons of cornstarch into your flour mixture. And then you're going to take your whisk, or you're going to put it through a sifter. You're going to whisk very, very well. If you want, you can sift this several times through just a regular sieve, or if you have like one of those old-fashioned flour sifters, you can do it a couple of times through there. But I'm going to be using this in a recipe right away, so I'm going to be able to use this with no problem. Now, you can make this in a big batch. You can store it in an airtight container, or like in a 2-quart mason jar, and keep it in your pantry. I don't personally use cake flour very often, but I do when I make cupcakes, and I do when I make sponge cakes especially, because when you make a sponge cake, cake flour is definitely an important thing to use. That is how you make proper cake flour at home using 2 ingredients, and you didn't have to go out and buy something special. 3 baking basics that I know you're going to use. Maybe you knew them, maybe you didn't. If you didn't, I hope you learned something, and I hope it's helpful. If you already did know it, but you forgot, I hope this was a gentle reminder and a good refresher for your mind. We went over how to bring eggs to room temperature quickly for when you need them in a recipe now, but you don't want to wait a couple of hours for that to happen. We showed you how to properly measure flour into a measuring cup, because you might actually be measuring too much and not even know it. And then the last thing we shared with you was how to make your own cake flour at home using 2 simple ingredients, all-purpose flour and cornstarch. That's all it is. So I hope this was a fun video. I hope you learned something. If you enjoyed it, please consider giving me a thumbs up. If you are new to my kitchen, welcome. It's always a pleasure to welcome new friends. Please hit that subscribe button. And if you are already a tried and true member of the Noreen's Kitchen family, be sure and go hit the bell notification button, because we don't want any of you to miss out on all the real food for real people, real easy recipes that we present all the time right here on our YouTube channel and straight from our kitchen. I hope you enjoyed this little primer on 3 baking basics, and I hope that you love them. And until next time, I'll see ya.